You're probably noticing that I do not hold my threads when I start to sew. So if you're in the habit of doing that, I'm going to show you that the Pfaff Ambition 620 has a great feature that allows you not to have to do this. But I need to have you understand why. So when I do start, and the last time I stitched, I did use the scissor button to cut my thread. So I actually only have one thread coming out of my needle, and it's fairly short. It's just out to about right here. I cannot see the bobbin at all. But when I do put fabric underneath the presser foot, I do put it in far enough that when I lower the presser foot down, that the first stitch is going to be taken in fabric. So not in the air before the edge of the fabric. So that's number one. Now if I do put my fabric in and not get it all the way on the fabric, yeah, you probably want to maybe hold that thread for just a little bit until the first stitch or two get taken and it locks in the fabric. So here's the other benefit of this machine. We are enjoying the beautiful part of the electronics. So when we sew, so right now, when we sew, the needle either stops up, which we have it set for, or with the push of the button and the light on, the needle stopping down in the machine. You've also been noticing that I have not been touching or turning the hand wheel, which you can, except you got to know how far to turn it. So right now, if we just are done, we're going to touch the scissors. It's going to cut the thread, and then it brings the needle up to the highest position, and it brings the take-up lever, which you can kind of see when you're sitting in front of the machine, to its highest position. That means it completes the stitch. So when I go to start again, I am starting at the beginning of the stitch, and that's why it doesn't matter that I'm not holding my hands. Where people get in trouble is that, let's say you did turn the hand wheel and you brought your needle up above the fabric like it is, but actually you cannot see the take-up lever. Actually, see that big empty spot? There's no silver guy right there. And people take their fabric out, maybe utilizing their scissors on cutting it along the edge of the machine, which has the thread cutter. But when we start to sew again, the last stitch hasn't been finished. So the first thing it's going to do is lift up the take-up lever all the way to the highest point, which pulls your thread out of the needle. So if you've had that issue, that was your own doing. You were bringing that problem on yourself. Now what I'm going to do is just hold the thread so I don't lose it, bring the take-up lever all the way up. Did you see how much I had to turn to bring that up? It had to finish that stitch. Then now I'm back at the beginning, I can sew without holding those threads. But if you do find yourself turning that hand wheel, make sure you bring it up so you can see it. But if you just use the thread snips or your needle up and down button, you don't have to worry about it. It's always putting it at the perfect place. But just remember, if you are on a mechanical machine, you will need to remember to bring that up to the highest position. And then once again, you are following good practices for starting and stopping where your machine has finished the stitch.